Only 2 days prior to the final of the Copa America Centenario in 2016, Lionel Messi took to Instagram to voice his displeasure over the treatment of national team players by the Argentina FA. The players countered regular travel delays, they had to face long-haul flights without a proper meal, and hotels were not ready to take them. Messi also hinted in a cryptic message in his press conference that he will talk about it after the tournament is over. But he didn't. Rather, he announced his retirement from international football after losing consecutive continental finals against Chile. At the same time, the Argentina Football Association was in serious turmoil after then President Luis Segura was found guilty of corruption charges over the distribution of media rights of the domestic league. The situation was so bad that FIFA had to intervene and seize control of AFA under a temporary panel led by Damian Dupiele until next election. Argentina football was in shambles, and 2 months later, the national team head coach Tata Martino resigned following a disagreement over team selection for the Rio Olympics. Reports claim that due to severe internal politics, Martino had only 9 players out of 35 on the first day of his training camp. Later, it was revealed that he and other national team players were not getting paid either. Before Martino had left his job, Argentina won their last 3 matches and was in a comfortable position with 11 points in the CONMEBOL qualifiers for the Russia World Cup 2018. Despite this, the job for his successor, Edgardo Bauza, was relatively tough. The former albiceleste defender had to convince Lionel Messi to come back to the national team. Messi came back, and Argentina won their first match under Bauza against Uruguay.
And Messi, as the two teams shook hands, he's back.
But what followed was a disaster. Messi was injured for the next 3 matches, and Argentina gathered only 2 points against Venezuela, Peru and Paraguay, followed by a bitter 3-0 loss against Brazil.
Tentou o cruzamento para Gabriel Jesus, passou, olha a chance, olha o gol, olha o gol, olha o gol, gol!
The situation got better for a while when the albiceleste beat Colombia and Chile, but Messi was handed a 4-match suspension after abusing the referee during the Chile game, and Argentina looked hopeless again. They lost 2-0 to Bolivia in La Paz and were in serious trouble as they were placed 5th and were on the verge of losing the chance of automatic qualification for the World Cup. In the meantime, in August of 2017, Claudio Chique Tapia became the new president of AFA, and there were rumors in the air that Bauza could soon lose his job. The announcement came 1 week later via Twitter, and Jorge Sampaoli, the man behind Chile's marvelous success, took charge. In Argentina, the football fraternity is divided mainly into 2 sects. One side idolizes the beautiful football style of Luis Cesar Menotti. Another side believes in the strong pragmatic approach of Carlos Bilardo. Many at the time saw Sampaoli as the perfect mixture of both. An ardent disciple of Marcelo Bielsa and his high-pressing football, Sampaoli needed more young blood in the national team to implement his style. So he gave chances to numerous players from his homeland and Europe. He ended up calling 57 players in 15 matches, and most of them could not adapt to his formation due to short time of preparation. Rather, Argentina looked clueless without Messi. They drew the first 3 matches, with Sampaoli experimenting even more with his formation. Result: Argentina needed to win their last match in order to qualify. What followed was the
Unbelievable! Lionel Messi saves Argentina!
With the problem still remaining, Argentina played 5 friendlies before the World Cup. Sampaoli again brought several new faces to the team like Christian Ansaldi, Pavon and Meza, and continued experimenting with formations. Yes, stats showed that he at least changed his formations after every 2 matches. Argentina lost 6-1 to Spain just before the World Cup. This could have been a wake-up call, but he didn't learn. When the World Cup squad was announced, several informed players like Leandro Paredes, Geronimo Rulli, German Pezzella, Ezequiel Garay were surprisingly dropped. Rather, several players who had passed their primes by a few years, like Caballero, Marcos Rojo, and Lucas Biglia, were selected. The sudden injury of Manuel Lanzini forced Sampaoli to take a new midfielder, and Enzo Perez, who were vacationing in Dubai, was brought up. Poor man had to do extra training only to get match fitness. Of the 23 players Sampaoli called up initially, 11 had 10 caps or less with the national team. The result we all know. Argentina were on the verge of getting out of the group stage after a disappointing start. Messi once again rescued the team, but the morale was already dropped and unity was gone. Several reports suggested that the loss against Croatia had led to the revolt in the dressing room. Argentina was knocked out in the round of 16 against eventual champions France. Sampaoli was sacked. Messi was unsure, and veterans Mascherano, Biglia, Enzo Perez, Higuain and Rojo announced their retirement. The situation was so messed up that no big names showed any interest when the announcement for a new coach came. So the federation rather hopelessly decided to make interim manager Lionel Scaloni's appointment permanent. The former Deportivo La Coruna defender was Jorge Sampaoli's assistant during the FIFA World Cup and had great relations with most of the players. But his lack of experience and prominence annoyed many. One of them was Diego Maradona, who remarked, "He is not even capable of directing the traffic." The first thing Scaloni did was to make a WhatsApp chat with Lionel Messi to convince him about the project he had in his mind. Then he brought three prominent figures of the albiceleste as assistant managers: Pablo Aimar, Walter Samuel, and Roberto Ayala. All of them were successful in their careers, but like Scaloni, they had no prior managerial experience. Scaloni's citation was, "They are respected in the group and they had owned the national team colors with pride, so the youngsters will feel motivated." Another approach of his was to test and try many youngsters who were playing in European clubs and were underlooked by the previous management. The preparations brought mixed results, but a core team with the right mixture of experience and youth came out of it, which impressed Lionel Messi so much that despite the bitter loss against Brazil in the semi-final of the 2019 Copa America, Messi gave his speech and promised that this group will bring success to the national team. From that moment, the team never looked back. The third-placed match in the same tournament against Chile started an unbeaten streak of 36 matches, which finally ended at the hand of Saudi Arabia in the first match of the World Cup. In between them was the crowning moment in Copa America 2021, which finally filled the void of 28 years without a trophy for the Argentina national team. Messi was tearful and so was Scaloni. But what was the reason behind this success? While analyzing the Argentina team's journey under Scaloni, not one but many reasons pop up. First and foremost is the one and only Lionel Messi and his shaping of him as a leader over the years. Despite breaking numerous records and achieving individual accolades one after another, Messi always had to hear that he was partly Argentine and he was not a leader. Under Sabia and Tata Martino, his personality was more reserved and he didn't have a core group of players who were ready to fight wars for him. Scaloni perfectly shaped that by making Messi the centerpiece of his system and surrounding him with players like De Paul, Paredes, Giovanni Lo Celso, Christian Romero and Lautaro Martinez, who had eventually grown up idolizing LM10. The second reason was a mastermind of the manager building a core group of players who would perform irrespective of any changes in tactics. That's why Scaloni is so successful despite being flexible with his tactics. The main reason behind Argentina's failure on the global stage, despite having talented forward, was their inability to provide security in defense and midfield. That's where most credit goes to Scaloni for reviving the career of Nicolas Otamendi and adding youth players with Christian Romero and Lisandro Martinez. Wingbacks Nahuel Molina, Marcos Acuna, Gonzalo Montiel and Tagliafico have been with the team since the starting days, and nobody can imagine a team without them. All the midfielders bar Enzo Fernandez and Alexis McAllister in the World Cup squad have played a minimum of 20 matches under Scaloni. Scaloni was in the dressing room when several superstars of the national team broke their silence and confronted Jorge Sampaoli in the middle of a tactical analysis during the 2018 World Cup. That's why he was never worried about sitting in front of the group and convincing his ideas to them despite several criticisms and questions in his initial days. Midfield General Rodrigo De Paul, who had played most games under Scaloni, said in an interview that initially there were some doubts among the team members, but after the success he brought, they were convinced that he is the man and he has worked wonders. That's why, after the shocking defeat against Saudi Arabia, Lionel Messi himself came into the media and told the world that the group is capable of miracles, because miracles are the only reality under La Scaloneta.